Hello, my dear friends. How are you doing? Hope you are having an amazing day and not having to deal with drama. Ready for new stories I have for you today? Let's go to the first one. And don't forget to listen to the end of the story, guys, to hear my insights. Enjoy the stories, and don't forget to like and subscribe. And of course, don't forget to leave a comment. I'm 25 female, currently engaged to the love of my life, and we're in the midst of planning a wedding for next spring. I'd always dreamed of a beautiful wedding, nothing too extravagant, but definitely something special and memorable. Growing up, I always believed that when this moment came, I'd have some support from my family to make that day possible, especially because of a promise made by my grandparents years ago. When I was 18, my grandparents, who are genuinely two of the most generous and supportive people in my life, gave my parents $20,000 as a gift specifically for my future wedding. They believe weddings are significant milestones and wanted to give me a head start on celebrating that part of my life when the time came. They entrusted my parents with the money, telling me and them that it was intended solely for my wedding day. At the time, I was so moved. The gesture felt so thoughtful and meaningful. My grandparents are modest people who worked hard their whole lives, and to save that amount of money for me felt like a huge deal. I always assumed that this gift would stay safe with my parents until I was ready to use it. Fast forward 7 years. Here I am, 25, happily engaged, and planning the wedding I always dreamed of. My fiancé and I have been saving and budgeting carefully, but knowing that I had this wedding fund as a cushion was really comforting. I had some great conversations with my grandma during this wedding phase, and she's been so excited for us. But one day while we were talking, my grandma asked, "So how's that wedding fund going? Has it been helpful for you and fiancé?" Her question stopped me in my tracks. I hadn't accessed any wedding fund because, in my mind, it was still set aside with my parents. Assuming they had it saved up, I thanked her and told her it hadn't been used yet, but we were planning to use it soon for some of the final arrangements. She sounded confused and mumbled something saying that my mother told her that she gave me the funds already. But then she said that maybe she misunderstood. At the end, she's in her 80s, and her memory is not the best anymore. Feeling a bit uneasy, I decided to call my mom to clarify things. I figured it'd be a quick call where I'd confirm that the wedding money was still available. But when I brought it up, I immediately noticed something was off in her tone. She hesitated, then gave me an uncomfortable laugh, before finally blurting out, "Oh, well, about that money. We actually ended up using it a while back." The words didn't register at first. I had a moment where I thought maybe I misheard her. I asked her to clarify, and she finally admitted that they'd spent my entire wedding fund to buy my younger sister, 22 female, a car for her 18th birthday. She said they felt it was necessary because my sister needed reliable transportation to get to and from university, which was a couple of hours away from home. She justified it by saying, "You weren't planning a wedding anytime soon, and she really needed the car." I was completely stunned. That $20,000 was meant for my wedding, something my grandparents had worked hard to save for and trusted them to hold on to for me. I tried to keep calm and asked her how she could possibly think it was okay to use my money, but she kept insisting that it was a temporary solution. She said they assumed they'd have time to replace the money before I got married, but with their other financial commitments, it just didn't happen. The more she explained, the angrier I got. I reminded her that the money was given for a specific reason and that they had promised to keep it safe for my wedding day. But she dismissed my concerns, saying I should understand why they did it and that I should support my sister who needed the car. My dad later chimed in, telling me that my sister had struggled without a car and that their hands were tied at the time. He even went as far as to suggest that I should let this go because family sacrifices are a part of life. When I pointed out that my grandparents' gift wasn't meant for sacrifices, but specifically for my wedding, they both brushed me off, saying it's water under the bridge now and that I should be focusing on my future, not on the past. Because of this, I've had to make drastic changes to my wedding plans. The venue we'd originally planned on is now out of budget, which meant opting for a much simpler one. I had to cut down our guest list significantly, meaning I had to uninvite several friends and family members I genuinely wanted to celebrate with. I've been stressing over every detail, stretching every dollar, and trying to make this day beautiful despite the tight budget. But here's the kicker. My parents are now complaining about the wedding I'm planning. They think it's embarrassing for the family that it's going to be a smaller event than what people expected. My mom keeps saying, "People will talk," as if I'm somehow damaging the family's reputation by not having a more elaborate celebration. She actually had the audacity to tell me to take out a loan to cover the extra costs, so that I could do it properly and make the family look good. According to her, I owe it to them to have a respectable wedding. When I suggested that they could at least help with the cost since they spent my original wedding fund, they immediately shut it down, saying they had other financial priorities. My dad even added that he didn't want me to ruin my relationship with my sister over a car, which just made my blood boil. This isn't about a car. It's about the fact that they took my wedding fund, used it for my sister without telling me, and now have the nerve to demand that I take on debt to throw a wedding they can be proud of. As for my sister, when I reached out to her to explain how I was feeling, hoping she might understand, she was dismissive and completely unsympathetic. She said she was grateful for the car and hoped I could understand why they made the decision. When I explained how much it hurt to have my wedding day impacted because of this, she just told me to get over it and that it's just a wedding. I haven't told my grandparents the truth because I know it would break their hearts to know that their generous gift didn't go where it was intended. But part of me feels like they deserve to know what my parents did. They were so thoughtful and generous to give me that gift, and it just seems so wrong that it was used for something else. Yet I'm torn, because I know telling them would likely cause a family rift. I don't want to create drama, but I feel so betrayed and angry, and I'm not sure how to move forward without acknowledging what happened. So, am I the a-hole for being furious at my parents for using my wedding fund? And would I be the a-hole if I told my grandparents the truth about where their $20,000 gift really went? That money was a gift specifically for OP and her wedding. The fact that OP's parents took it for OP's sister's car without asking OP or even telling her is just wrong. OP's parents had no right to use it for anything else. OP wouldn't be in this position if they'd respected the purpose of the gift. And then for them to suggest OP should take on debt? That's just adding insult to injury. Honestly, I'd tell grandparents. They need to know their money was misused. And also, I would uninvite parents and sister from the wedding. They are horrible people. What would you guys do in OP's situation? And now let's hear the community's opinion. So, your parents stole your wedding fund, spent it on your sister, and now have the audacity to say you need to take out a loan? This is beyond messed up. I understand family sacrifices, but this wasn't theirs to sacrifice. The fact that they're more worried about appearances than the fact that they betrayed your trust is disgusting. And your sister. Saying it's just a wedding is such a slap in the face. I'm sorry you're going through this. Not the a-hole. I hate to say it, but your parents are showing major favoritism towards your sister. It's like they're bending over backward to justify this, but nothing excuses taking money meant for one child's big day and giving it to another child. Weddings aren't just weddings when they're important to the person getting married. If they felt the car was necessary, they should have found another way to pay for it. You absolutely have the right to be upset, and I'd seriously consider telling your grandparents. You need to tell your grandparents. They gave you that money in good faith, and your parents broke that trust. Your grandparents deserve to know what their gift really went toward. It's not your responsibility to protect your parents from the consequences of their actions. They chose to prioritize your sister's car over your wedding fund. They can handle the fallout if your grandparents aren't pleased. Also, I hope your fiancé is being supportive. He should know what's going on with the financial side of things. Update. First, I sat down with my fiancé and shared everything that had been going on. He was incredibly supportive and agreed that this situation was unfair. Together, we discussed how to handle my parents' demands and the ongoing tension. I eventually decided that I couldn't allow people at my wedding who not only refused to help after using my wedding fund, but also tried to pressure me into debt to save face. So I uninvited my parents. It was a tough decision, but I realized that having them there would just remind me of all the hurt, and I didn't want that hanging over me on one of the biggest days of my life. I wanted this wedding to be filled with love and genuine support, not resentment and unresolved issues. My parents, predictably, did not take it well. My mom accused me of destroying the family and trying to make them look bad in front of everyone. She didn't acknowledge the betrayal of using my wedding fund at all, only that I was now being cruel by not letting them attend. As if that wasn't enough, my sister's now threatening not to come either. She sent me a long message saying that she's disgusted by my actions and that I'm tearing the family apart over a wedding. According to her, I'm selfish and ungrateful for everything my parents have done for us. She even said I should have just gotten over it and invited everyone back to keep the peace. It's clear she doesn't see the issue with what happened, which makes the favoritism sting even more. Despite all this drama, I went over to my grandparents' house to explain my decision, and they were supportive. They told me they understood why I needed to make this choice for my own peace of mind. My grandpa even said that he was proud of me for standing up for myself. It's sad to think that my family has come to this, but I'm now focusing on making my wedding a beautiful, loving day filled with people who genuinely care about me and my fiancé. It's hard, but I'm finding peace in the fact that I'm no longer bending over backward to please people who don't respect me. I'm grateful for my grandparents and friends who have supported me through all of this. My father purchased a property with 2 apartment buildings, a larger first-floor apartment, and a house in the back. My whole family has lived on this property our whole lives. When my father passed away, my mother put this property, along with another one in Florida, under my name, presumably because I'm the most responsible of my 3 sisters, and my older sister and mother never really got along well. I do everything for this property. When my younger sister moved out many years ago, I paid for some renovations and rented it out to tenants. I pay the taxes and deal with any paperwork, etc. The property almost went into foreclosure, so I sold the house in Florida to pay it off and kept the rest to do some home improvements in my home. We can no longer stay in this property because the area is getting bad and the property is really old, so I've decided to sell it. My sister wants to take 15% because she says that she pays monthly into the mortgage, has done everything on her side of the property. She's in the house in the back, and anytime something happens, repairs need to be made, etc., she deals with that. And her husband has even done some upkeep on the other side of the property, including making several repairs in my mother's apartment when my niece moved in with my mother. She also said that this was my father's inheritance because he purchased this property for his family, not just for me. But everything is under my name now. She also said that what the property is selling for is a lot more than I ever put in, but I don't think it matters how much I put in. I did more. I think it's absolutely crazy for her to ask for 15% because she hasn't done nearly as much as I have. I think I deserve all of it because it's under my name, and I took care of a lot more than she did. So, would I be the a-hole if I take everything and leave my sister with nothing? P.S. I also do everything for my mother. Now she lives with me, so I take care of all her needs, make all her doctor's appointments, etc. She never takes off of work to take my mother to the doctors. Unless it's on a weekend, she doesn't go at all. She'll stay in the hospital with my mother on weekends and has taken off very rarely to take her anywhere. She thinks just because I have one day of the week off, I also have weekends off, that I should always be the one to take her. Her and my mother do not get along very well because she says my mother has always treated her poorly and me like a princess. She always mentions how her mother took care of my kids for free, but always charged her. Safe to say, she treats my mom pretty bad, so it's not hard to get my mom on my side with this. Yes, the a-hole. 15% is fair. At 15%, it acknowledges you did most of the work and care. It is her inheritance too. If she was asking for 50%, I would agree that is not fair. 15% is the effort your sister and husband put in. Wow, OP has a stunning lack of self-awareness. Like, in what world would she not be the a-hole? OP, your selfishness in this situation is astounding. You took out a second mortgage, which your sister pays half of, and used it to pay for improvements on your part of the house. Your sister also does repairs and maintenance on her part of the house, as well as your mom's. The mom that hates her, apparently. Your basis for all of this is, everything is in my name. That's not what your dad wanted, though, is it? Yes, the a-hole OP. I'd suggest you give your sister the very reasonable amount of 15%, before she takes you to court and gets way more than that. Yes, the a-hole. She's not asking for 50%. She's asking for 15%. She hasn't done nearly as much as you have, as you say, but she also hasn't asked for as much back. She still put work into the property. She pays part of the mortgage, and she's your damn sister who grew up there and still lives there, from what I'm gathering. Just because your mother is paying clear favorites doesn't mean you have to inherit that attitude, too. My ex and I were together for 3.5 years. We split about 3 years ago. No issues either side, still good friends. We just needed different things from a relationship. Since then, I've been single, focusing on my job, my degree, and my mental health. Around the time I split from ex, I realized I had an unhealthy attitude towards alcohol, and my ex's mom, 25 years sober, offered to take me to AA meetings. I accepted, and she later became my sponsor, and I've been sober for 2 years because of her. As a result of this, and the fact that my family are either alcoholic shoplifters or in jail, I've stayed close to my ex's family. My ex met a girl, Stacy, around 2 years ago. I don't know her very well. I've met her a handful of times, and she's always given me the cold shoulder, and I've just shrugged it off. Recently, he started thinking about proposing to her and emailed me about ring advice. I work for a jeweler. I suggested catching up for coffee, and I would bring the 3-ring binders of jewelry designs from work for him to look at. We met at a small cafe, and he ended up picking a handful of designs, and he took photos of each of them so he could have a think and then pop into the shop to order one. About 5 days later, he comes into the shop and orders a fairly simple design that won't take long to make. It's still white gold and diamonds, so it's not super cheap, around $3,000, but I'm able to use my employee discount to get it to just over $2,000. I tell him it'll take 2 to 3 weeks to make, and he'll get a text from the store when it's ready. Everything seemed fine for a week or so, until out of the blue, Stacy sends me a Facebook message with photos of X and I at the coffee shop, and calls me a boyfriend stealer and a W. I send her a message back saying that I was helping X plan a surprise for her and to talk to him about it. She responded saying that was bull, and that he had told her he thought it was annoying that I was always hanging around, and that he wished I would leave him alone. At this point, I sent my ex a screenshot of her message and asked him if he really felt that way, and said that if he did, then I didn't want to help him plan his proposal anymore. I had been giving him advice on flowers, music, and a getaway. He responded saying he'd never said that, and he would talk to Stacy. About 4 days later, I see his mom at AA and ask what's happening because I've been getting Facebook messages from Stacy's friends accusing me of being a homewrecker. She tells me that X told Stacy about the plans for a proposal, and she blew up at him about everything from asking me for help to the price of the ring. She wanted it to be worth more because of the 10% rule. As a result, my ex called her a spoiled brat and told her I was only trying to help and told her to leave. X's mom is overjoyed, but I feel really guilty. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. A classic case of jealous girlfriend. You unintentionally did a good thing, not by showing him rings, but by breaking them up. I doubt the relationship would have lasted too long if they married. Then he would be ducked up emotionally, financially, and socially. Absolutely not the a-hole. Sounds like you have a beautiful friendship with your ex and his family. I get that your boyfriend being close to his ex could be a little difficult for his new girlfriend, but she went into this relationship with her eyes wide open about the situation. So that's on her for not speaking up or picking someone else to date if she had a problem with it. The pics of you and him at the cafe is insane. What the duck was she doing? Telling him in her car? Did she hire a private investigator? He's well shot of her. Hope the split lasts and he finds someone nicer. Not the a-hole. You didn't split up your ex and his girlfriend. His girlfriend showed her true colors, and your ex is lucky he found out before marrying her. I know the title makes me sound like a witch, but hear me out. So I, 27 female, met my boyfriend, 32 male, 2 years ago because I went to work at a company he worked at, in which his ex-father-in-law was a senior partner. We started dating, not proud of it, and as his wife and father-in-law found out, we both got fired. We moved in together, and I'm making more than him now because his ex-boss, father-in-law, misinformed him, so it's hard for him to get a job, at least in this industry. Thus, I pay the rent and most of the bills, and he helps a little because he spends most of it in child support. My boyfriend has kids from that previous relationship, 8 male, 7 male. Due to the custody agreement, my boyfriend gets to have his kids on weekends. He is a great dad, which is one of the things that made me fall in love with him, but his kids hate me and don't even act on it. They never listen to me, treat me disrespectfully, and are a little spoiled brat. Nothing has ever been denied to them. I talked to my boyfriend about this, and he said that I should give them time. Since they are kids, I tried. This past weekend, these kids went too far. They called me SL-T and homewrecker. I was furious and told my boyfriend to take them back, but he refused and said that this couldn't come from them and was obviously their mother. So I let them stay this weekend. On Monday, once they left, I let my boyfriend know that I don't like being disrespected in my own house, so they are not allowed to come here, and if he wants to see them, he'll have to go outside unless they apologize. I tried to play a motherly role, but they have this crappy attitude towards me, and I don't know what to do to earn their love. I tried because, after all, I'll be their stepmom, and I will be here for the rest of our lives. To be honest, I don't think they even know what homewrecker stands for, nor SL-T, and I strongly believe this comes from their mom. But I set this as a punishment because I don't like being disrespected in my own house. My boyfriend calls me the a-hole for banning his kids, but he does literally nothing on this, not even scolding them. Am I the a-hole here? I'm confused as to where this "I will be their stepmom and be here for the rest of their lives" thing even comes from. He did not pick OP. He did not leave his wife for OP. He did not propose to OP. He does not chastise his children for disrespecting OP. He is very likely with OP because he doesn't want to be homeless. OP is such a silly rabbit. Doesn't she know that tricks are for kids? Yes, the a-hole. I mean, you are a homewrecker. You did cause the divorce. You knew he was married, so don't expect the kids or ex to like you. They have the right to dislike you. Making your boyfriend choose between you and the kids will not end well. If he is decent, he will choose them. Yes, the a-hole. What exactly did you think was going to happen? Why in the world would any child respect the person that tore apart their world? They're only repeating what they have heard and feel. You have already destroyed his marriage. Yours and his actions destroyed his career. And now you are planning to destroy his relationship with his kids. And you are still asking if you're an a-hole? Seriously? To start off, my brother, Brad, and I didn't see each other too often, so we're not that close. 5 years ago, he married a single mom who had a 9-year-old son, Michael. It was a surprise because he was always so dead set on being kids-free. First time we met his family, it was obvious he didn't have a change of heart about kids. When I noticed how he wouldn't interact with Michael at all and practically ignored his existence. A year into the marriage, Brad sometimes vented to me about how annoying it is having Michael around 24/7, which didn't feel right to me. There was some back and forth arguing between us about why he would marry someone with a kid if he hates kids, when all it's doing is making him miserable and hurting an innocent child who's not at fault. One time, Brad asked me if I could take Michael with me and my sons on a camping trip we were going on for the weekend, because he absolutely needed this free time. I agreed, and we all ended up having a great time. Michael's a shy and timid kid, but once we were out there, he let himself open up. He's really sweet and kind. Couldn't believe this is the kid my brother constantly complained about, like if he was such a chore. I basically became the weekend babysitter sometimes, which I had no problem with. Michael and my sons loved hanging out, and we did lots of activities together. Last year, when he and his ex divorced, I was worried about not being able to see Michael again. Of course, after years, we considered him family and didn't want to cut that off. I spoke with Brad's ex-wife, and she was more than fine with Michael coming over every now and then to hang out with my sons. Michael was very happy to continue joining us for our outings and even asked his mom if he could spend Thanksgiving with my family this year. Just myself, my boys, and my wife. We video chatted with my parents during this, and they were surprised to see Michael there, but didn't comment since he was present. They obviously told Brad about it because he called me to complain about siding with his ex, and it's weird still letting Michael around my family when he isn't legally family anymore. He said the divorce was hard enough already without me still including his ex-wife's kid in my family stuff. I honestly couldn't believe he was acting this way and said he's being completely ridiculous. He still thinks I'm somehow being a traitor for this. I've asked my other brother and parents to weigh in on this, but they also feel the same way. He's my brother, and there's no reason to still keep including Michael when he's no longer part of the family. Seriously, I'm shocked that they would think it's okay to just drop Michael from my family's lives because my brother wants me to. I really don't see anything wrong with what we're doing, but now it's turned into a me versus the family scenario, and I'd like to know from others if I was being an a-hole here or not. Not the a-hole. Adults should not let their feelings stand in the way of giving a child a good life. Not the a-hole. It's not like you're hanging out with his ex. Your kids are spending time together. Just because they aren't legally family anymore doesn't mean they can't be friends. They didn't choose to break up. Him and his ex did. Not the a-hole. You are not the a-hole. You are giving a kid a safe place and kids to hang out with. You are not attacking your brother or family about the divorce. It sounds like your kids just have a great friend they like to hang out with. The a-hole move would be to have just dropped Michael out of your lives.